We are on, and we'll give John a minute to get here.
You mean Tyler?
No, I meant John.
Oh, that John.
Tyler will not be here tonight. Alrighty, we will, oh, hey, procedure question for you.
Sure.
With the public hearing, do we make the motion and then open the public hearing, or do the public hearing, get input, and then make the motion?
Usually the second,
The second, okay.
but I don't think there's a law one way or the other.
Okey dokey. All right, we will open the October 31st Select Board meeting with Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okey dokey. We will start with manifests.
I'll make a motion to approve the accounts payable manifest of October 31st, 2022, and the payroll manifest of November 1st, 2022. Second?
All in favor?
Right.
Unanimous?
Want me to make a motion on the minutes?
Did you have any corrections on them, or is it, no? Okay.
Was that a motion, John?
Yeah, I'll make a motion to accept the minutes of 10:17 as written.
Second.
All in favor? I'm going to abstain, Ryan, since I wasn't at the meeting.
Do you wish to adopt the non-public minutes of 10:17 as well?
Yes. Everybody good with them?
Are they, oh, they are in there, okay. Yeah, yes, yeah, I'm good with that.
All good?
Do a motion on that. I'll make a motion to accept the non-public minutes for October 17th, 2022 as written.
Second?
All in favor?
Right.
One abstain. All right, boards and assigned committees. Budget.
Our first meeting will be next week on Thursday. So, the last meeting we had was over a month ago, so
Okay.
it all starts,
Full throttle.
yes,
Next week, John, this week or next week?
it's going to be next week, 'cause I believe it's on the 10th. So it should be the Thursday, the 10th, if I'm, I don't know, close enough. We had a planning board meeting. We had 3 cases in front of us, all previous cases that were there. So just trying to button those up and finish those, and getting close to finishing them, so.
Cool.
But there's new stuff coming up, so, and then we'll be talking with the planning board tonight.
Yep, okay, good. Anything on CIP? I don't think so. You were CIP, right? But there's,
Tyler, you assigned him.
I thought it was you, but okay.
I'm more than happy to take his place if,
Well, I think we have a CIP document, right?
We have a draft.
A
yes.
draft, okay. Anything from the school yet?
No, I talked to him last week. He was hoping to get it done this weekend.
Okay, okay. 300th? Steve, anything you want to share with us?
Yes, first of all, the chowder, we had the chowder contest on Saturday. And this is important, on November 11th, at the 11th hour, that's a Friday, which is also Veterans Day, we're gonna have a really important ceremony in front of the library. It will have the national anthem sung by Claire Burbank, music by Judith McGinn. Members of the board, Ben and Tyler will be there, and Ben and Tyler will decide which one of those two will speak for the board. Then, each one of them, as veterans, will speak for veterans. Then, also, Steve White is another veteran that also speaks. There'll be a wreath laying ceremony, taps, and a moment of silence. So the public's invited. It says, first time we've done in a long time, honored the veterans as they should. And it's, you know, the reason it's that, it's the 11th day, or the 11th hour, the 11th day of the 11th month, the guns fell silent on the Western Front and honors the state, which ended World War I in 1918. That's the reason for the 11 o'clock. Thank you.
Okay. How long do you think that, just so people understand, like if people have to skip out from work or something for it, how long do you anticipate the whole?
No more than a half hour.
Okay.
But again, I'm delighted to say we've reached a point where we honor veterans now. From the Vietnam era, we're not nice to veterans. We've come a long way.
Good, okay, thank you for that. Marston, I don't have a lot new. The one thing that was put in was I don't, lack of a better term, the tap for the water bottle filler was put in, and, yeah.
We've also paved it.
Yes, I know, I think we had talked about that before. But, so that is in, I think Courtney is working with Dale just to do an initial water test. But that is good to go. So, that's it on committees. John?
Yes, road name. An engineer for a subdivision is asked to use the road name Captain Smith Drive for a road created by the subdivision. It's not on the approved list that the board approved a few years ago. The building inspector does not believe that it conflicts with existing names, so it's up to the board to add it to the list if the board wishes to do so. Captain Smith Drive.
No,
Nope,
why is that?
I don't agree. We don't have any other names honoring the other folks in our town, such as the four generals sitting up at the Nottingham Square, so why should we make an exception for this?
Who's Captain Smith?
That's the other thing too, who's Captain Smith?
I have no idea. They just asked for the name. Shall we say that it should come up with a different name that is not specific to an individual?
Well, I think we don't have that precedent, because we do have recently named roads that are named after individuals.
We have.
Yeah, yep. So, I mean, other thoughts?
Really, for one way or the other, it doesn't bother me, because I don't know who Captain Smith is. I don't know if it's a reference to anybody or if it's just, but, I mean, we do have a bunch of road names already, but.
Could be from a TV show. Seriously.
I mean, I also think anybody could have a request to put any name on the list, but,
Yeah.
I mean, do you need a motion on this?
If you wish to add it, yes. If you wish to get more information, I can go back and ask them to explain who Captain Smith is.
I'd like that.
Okay. Could you capture that, Lorraine, as an action item, please, for the next meeting?
Where is this road?
It's in a new subdivision that's going in, but I'm not quite sure where.
It's gotta be off of 4, maybe.
It's on the planning board agenda or somewhere.
Yeah, we haven't got the names. We're just talking about the whole thing, so that's why I didn't know.
I'll try to find out.
Okay.
Who and where. Authorized uses for an HMA legal. I'm proposing the list that is basically the chairman of boards in various positions in the town. Is Donna authorized to sign that, to send it to New Hampshire Legal? These would be the people who could get advice from an HMA. That consensus of the board?
Very good?
Yep.
Yeah, I thought it was already that way, so.
Well, there was an older one that was
Yeah.
outdated, so this is just updating it. Next item I would like to put on the November 14th, a session called Input for the Expenditures of Remaining ARPA CSLFRF Funds, which we believe to be in the amount of $381,000. Is that acceptable to add that to the agenda?
Makes sense to me.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
Next item, does the board wish to receive information NHMA has for legal advice to Nottingham before 2015? It's their procedure to dispose of records after 6 years. This is a regular practice in most law firms. And it gives the client the opportunity of having those files if they feel they need them. In my opinion, their advice would not have been as specific as our own attorneys, and therefore there's no point in receiving it.
No place to take them anyway, so sure. Get rid of 'em.
Yeah.
Okay.
The large Birch Lane culvert failed. We're replacing it under emergency authorization. Today they put in cofferdams on both sides. They're gonna begin pumping tomorrow and start replacing it. They hope to have it all done by Friday. They're gonna have to replace the 2 4-foot culverts. And it's going to run something a little over 40,000 for the contractor, plus our staff has been helping. Today it was real slick how our staff had fixed a sander so they could fill sandbags. They were putting in, I don't know, probably 16 of the 1 ton, of the half-ton size of sandbags, and then a bunch of the smaller ones that you're more familiar with that people lift. So it was made an emergency lane in 1995.
What street is that?
Birch. It's off from North River Lake Road. In fact, it was called North River Lake Road East, I think is how it was
That's
called.
one of the newly named. Town
Newly
accepted.
named, yeah, the town just renamed it.
Yep.
We are returning $4,200 plus 6 years of interest to each of 3 individuals who paid that money for impact fees because the condition for the school expansion was not met. Over the next few years, we're gonna be returning something like $350,000 in impact fees, because you have to return it if you don't use it within 6 years.
And that's money that's set aside in a separate account. It's not like all of a sudden we'll be taking $357,000 out of our budget to
They
cover that.
paid us, we've been holding it, now we have to pay them back,
Yep,
it's a
yep,
separate fund.
yep.
We have been using the fire money, the fire chief is good about making sure we don't have to return any of that. And there's recreation money that we receive, but this is school money, so, but we hold it. Next item, there was a question on the Public Works budget. There are 4 employee slots plus the director. That's how they got to 5 on the question that was asked. In response to a criticism that we were not putting the Republican Party on our calendar, we took off the Democratic Party, so it appears we're not playing any favorites to anyone, so we're just not going to run political parties on our website. As I mentioned last time, our domain is a government domain and can not be used for political campaigning or commercial purposes. That's part of the condition that comes with it. We've advertised the CDLB vacancy in highway at $25 an hour. We advertised snow shoveling at town buildings at $15. The land use position is advertised at $25 an hour. To my knowledge, we haven't received any applications on any of those. Hiring is difficult in this environment. FYI, the chair signed the health insurance renewal. I've got details here on the highway bridge money if you want to look it over as it relates to the upcoming public hearing, but I'll save any discussion of that until we get to the public hearing. That completes my report.
Questions for John? The only thing I'll add is that I did speak with Mike from MRI last week. They, to date, at that point, had 6 applications in for the full-time position, and the job is posted until the 14th, right, November 14th. At that time, they'll start screening them and looking at them. So that's where we are with that. Okay, public hearing is at 7. We are 15 minutes ahead. What do we want to slide up for 15 minutes?
My suggestion is budget, the library here? is
Yeah,
that-
that's what I was thinking, let's squeeze,
Yeah, I think they may like to get out of here.
let's
They
squeeze
work
the
long
library
hours.
in.
Good evening. First, I'd like to thank everyone for allowing us to come in this evening. I have some extensive travel coming up, and that would have left Liz here trying to defend her own job increase.
Could you do me a favor and just announce your name?
Oh, I'm sure, absolutely. I'm Jen Phillips. I am the chair of the Nottingham Library Board of Trustees, and this is Liz.
I'm Liz Bolton, I'm the director of the Blaisdell Memorial Library.
And it's line 349.
Thank you, that's what I was
At the
looking for.
very end.
Oh, thank you.
All right, how you guys doing?
Doing well. I mean, I think the library is going gangbusters. That is not a surprise. We see this every time there's any economic downturn or hardship, the use of the library goes up. So we have been blowing through a number of records, including 36 new card holders in July alone, which is, we usually didn't even break double digits, and now we're breaking double digits every month. Programming is in very high demand. I think I mentioned in my mid-year report that we had 50 children attempt to sign up for 10 slots for afternoon craft program. I'm going to let Liz go over some of the, I guess I'm here to ask, how do you want to do this? Like, our operating budget is pretty straightforward. We have been notified that there are some price increases coming from, this is the library automation line, so that's the system that runs our entire.
I'm sorry, wait, what?
Okay, so we submit an operating budget, which is the operating appropriation, and that is, we're looking for a 4% increase on that.
Okay, so guys, that's line 351. Give us a second to just read the narrative here.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Mine has the wrong number.
Mine says 347.
Okay, guys, questions?
No.
What are the automation costs?
Automation cost is the computer system that runs all of the library stuff. It's how we catalog books when they come in. It's how we provide checkouts. It's how we keep track of late fees. It connects to our website so that the online catalog is accessible. It's an all-encompassing system that ties everything together with rental material, or the borrowing materials.
Okay.
And they have been very clear. They sent a letter saying, basically, an increase is not just likely, but probable, so.
So that, the 10% that you mentioned here is the, where you said our vendor has advised costs will go up at 10% minimum, that relates to the automation.
Yes.
So I'm gonna ask you an open question. What can you cut?
Well, not really a
Not that I
lot.
want you to see anything, because I know the
No,
services that
it's
you're doing.
a fair
I
question.
understand what you're doing, but there's people that are gonna be out there that says, why can't you keep it the same or only have a 5% or 4%, you know, I mean.
And in fairness, we're gonna ask everybody that question.
Yeah,
Absolutely,
no.
exactly, I'm not.
It's
I'm just
absolutely a
saying-
fair question. I think that what jumps to my head is, we are starting to see more and more maintenance costs, so I am reluctant to do anything about the maintenance line. As a matter of fact, we were kind of told that our furnace might be on its last legs. We're kind of keeping our fingers crossed that it powers through another year, because that would blow a hole in the budget, quite frankly. Replacing a furnace is never cheap.
That's not planned either.
Yeah, exactly. Our cleaning costs have gone up, like cleaning materials cost more, so how do we cut that? Do we not clean? We've cut the furniture budget. We've cut, I thought there was another one that we cut. Yeah, professional dues, we cut that way back, because we're not really sending anyone anywhere anyway. Supplies have gone up. Our book costs, we kept level, even though our book costs are going up 20 to 25%, depending on the type of,
Yeah,
so
material.
yeah, it gets complicated, but basically, audiobooks and ebooks have, some of them are, the pricing is based on usage. So the more people we have that use the ebooks, the higher our costs go. And of course, the pandemic trained everyone to use ebooks, so we now have an increasing cost on that line item. And yet we're keeping that one level. So, I mean, I guess, what could we cut?
If we're gonna be cutting anything, well, museum passes
Yeah.
probably.
Yep.
The programming, we do a lot of stuff in-house, we can take some money out of that. It will require a little bit more work on our part, we won't probably have any imported paid performers.
And I will let you know, I'm sorry to interrupt Liz here, but as far as programming goes, our new children's librarian has solicited for those materials, rather than buying them. The town has been very receptive, and we have had more than $650 of materials donated by the town. So, you're asking what we can cut, we're already trying to.
Again, I'm just, in general, it's a,
Understood. And we've also gone to a different method of replacing our worn-out books.
Sure.
Normally, when a book starts falling apart, if it's usually a popular title, and we purchase a replacement copy for that. What Liz has elected to do is to hold off replacement until the Friends do their book collection for the book sale. And then, with the permission of the Friends, she is allowed to go in and see if any of those titles are ones that have been donated. That has saved us $920 in replacement book costs this year. So, I mean, we're trying to do everything we can to keep our costs either level or down. But we're getting, I think, especially with things like cleaning, maintenance, and the automation, we're close to bone.
John, did we get that detailed budget that she's referring to? Because we just have everything lumped in the one operations and appropriation line.
I am not aware, it may be in the file, it
Okay.
hasn't
Because
come in
I
since
don't
I've
think
been
I've seen
here.
it. I would appreciate getting that.
I'm happy to,
You want me
so is
to
this
just-
something
I
that,
can go make photocopies
Yeah,
of it.
this is something that I make myself because I don't put that all in the narrative.
Yeah, but,
in things like background checks, we have to do those, we're required to do
so that's the kind of stuff that I think it will just help us understand if we can see that, rather than just looking at that one.
Absolutely.
one number.
Yeah.
you can always say no, too.
I'm not gonna say no to you.
You can.
Yeah, you can. You're gonna be the first person, so go for it.
I did find my inflation list. Audiobooks are up by 17%, audiobooks for kids are up 16%, children's books are up 11%. Our book covers,
Plastic.
this is the plastic that we put on the outside of the book to protect them from spills, damage, it extends the life of the book. That cost is up 168%. Laminate, which is what we use to cover the paperback books to protect them in a similar way, is up 26%.
Okay. Just, being real picky here. Just for my education, what's driving the $150 increase in phone?
I don't, the town picks that up, so I guesstimate it, and.
Okay.
I've had to have First Light come out more than once for the fax line. It's had a failure to communicate, so they've had to visit. Unfortunately, so I underestimated last year, but because they have to visit at least once a year, and the cost goes up every time they figure out that it's too wet or too damp or whatever.
Yeah, I'm not really arguing that, I'm just like trying to understand.
Fax machine outdated.
I know, I did too. What's this fax machine you speak of?
Exactly.
An ancient technology, similar to cuneiform.
Okay. See, this is helpful when we can see the,
I thought you received it, I guess that.
yeah.
It may be in the file. I
Okay.
didn't print it because I wasn't aware of it, but it could be that it's in the computer.
Just to see the year to year is helpful.
I mean, if we look back to 2019, we're only talking about, I don't know, a little over $1,000 total increase
For that line.
for the operating, yeah.
Yeah.
The purpose for the added legal line?
Ah, yes. That was something that was strongly recommended by the New Hampshire Library Trustees Association for two reasons. One, policy review. To make sure that the library is in kind of a weird, I don't know, statutory area, in that the library trustees essentially pass the policies to run the library. However, if we were ever to get sued, the town would be responsible for enforcement of that. So, the policies that we write and pass should have legal review. And, because the town will be defending them if that was ever in question.
Yep.
So that's part one. Part two is libraries are being sued more frequently across the country. It's not quite yet a problem in New Hampshire, but there have been some. And they simply want to make sure that we're covered.
Is it because of operations and policies or because of physical?
It's usually book bans are popping up, but there are all, it's not the slip on the sidewalk. A book ban, it's when someone comes in and says, we don't like that you have X, Y, and Z titles, we'd like you
I
to.
got you, right, it's not something, never mind, I know.
To content?
Not a band.
Oh, sorry, I'm sorry.
I was like,
Okay.
So that's one category of it, but it's,
Yeah, there's a lot more challenges, there's a lot more, everything's a lot more politicized at this point.
I know that you're all surprised to hear that. But yeah, that's why we have been basically highly recommended to add a legal line item. When I came back from the conference, I spoke with Chris Sterndale, and he said that for a preliminary review, that the town would cover the town lawyer reviewing our policies. And so we have turned those over to her. I have not followed up with her, that's my bad, but she was in the process of reviewing them last time I
Okay.
interacted with her.
Anything else, guys? So,
did you discuss the salary?
well,
Yeah, I was
we're
gonna
just coming
say-
back to that.
I'm not gonna get up.
I meant, was that anything else on that appropriations? But yeah, you wanna talk about salaries?
I am happy to talk about salaries, I guess. The salary line is clearly our biggest increase, and, I don't think that it's any surprise to anyone here that, it's hard to keep and retain people. We had an employee who left back in June, who we still have not replaced. We had a very strong candidate who came in, and when she was told what the pay rate was extremely direct with us and said that she made well over double that delivering pizza, and nearly triple that on good nights. We also have an issue, I think, with the director's salary. When I first started as an alternate, I was asked to do an analysis simply because I like crunching numbers. And I went and pulled, the director's salary levels from two different categories, peers and neighbors. Neighbors are, that's pretty self-explanatory, those are the towns around us. Peers were compared on three different items: town population estimates, town per capita income, and town local government income. And I did the 10 higher and 10 lower than us in each of those categories, and then found 3 towns that overlapped in all 3 categories. So those are peers. And at the time I did this analysis in 2016, there were 4 director salaries that were lower, 1 that was identical, and 5 that were higher. In 2021, we have 0 that are lower, 0 that are same, 8 that are higher, and 1 with no data.
So on the low end.
Bottom. My hunch is that part of this is attributable to the fact that we've had 3 directors in a short time period, and we've just kind of basically paid the same, rather than really looking and doing this analysis. Each time we had a vacancy, we just put the current amount up. And we were very fortunate to find talented people. My concern with it being as low as it is, you know, I'm not saying Liz is on her way out or leaving or even looking, but were we to lose her, we would be looking at an increase of at least 10K on that line to get a new director in here. So in my book, it makes more sense to start edging her up to what her peers are making, rather than getting slammed with a vacancy and trying to that kind of leapfrogging thing, where we look at one another and say, why don't we have any applicants, and then realize that everyone's paying 10 grand more than we are. So moderate, I think, small, edging her up there. The other portion of this is moving our employees up a little closer to,
McDonald's.
she's not kidding.
No, I've
we-
been told, yeah.
We
I was at
have,
McDonald's a couple weeks ago, I saw what they were paying.
Yeah.
Offering bonuses and paying for 401Ks and matching this, and they changed their whole pay scale around.
yep, we have employees that are making, you know, $13.50 an hour,
Yeah,
and they can make
sure.
well above that.
How many people does this recommended increase cover?
Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 4 of them.
Including you?
Oh, 5 if you count me, sorry.
She
Yeah.
keeps doing this.
Okay.
That might be the other reason.
No,
that we're-
particularly our children's librarians,
Yeah.
who are really, I mean, they've got full houses just about every morning, and they're really bringing in the people.
Okay.
And the thing I'd like to say about the children's librarian, not just that she's doing a tremendous job, but for the 20 hours that she gets paid to be in the library, she's probably putting at least 10 and probably another 20 hours per week in preparation, cutting up craft kits, fixing things, coming up with the idea, like, she's just flat out, one of the best children's directors I've ever seen, and I do not want to lose her.
Would you be willing to share the salary analysis with us that you did, please?
Absolutely.
And you can just email it to John and
Okay.
he can forward
Yep.
it to us. Questions?
Well, I just have one, it's, you know, minuscule compared to what you're trying to get for the salaries and all that. The cleaning part of it, if we went to like a contractor, is that contractor that comes in at 25, or is that a hired employee, or what is that?
She's out of Northwood, so we hire her
And
separately.
she's
She's
been
not on the
doing-
town payroll, we pay her.
She's been doing this she's been, as long
Forever?
as I've been here, so, which is at minimum 2015, she's
Have
been
you
doing
shopped
this.
around for any others that, you know,
We,
or maybe we can combine services with, you know, with different buildings here in the town?
All I hear is that she is one of the 2 Ginas around Nottingham who's available for cleaning.
I'm sorry, I didn't,
There's 2 Ginas who do cleaning in Nottingham, our Gina and the Gina who does the town hall, I believe.
I do think though, Ben, we should look at it from a more holistic picture, right?
a what?
We should look at it from a more holistic picture, like what are their needs for cleaning, what are the needs for cleaning here?
Yeah.
You know, and do we contract one service that does it all? And I don't know if that makes sense or not, but it's worth looking into.
Well, I mean, if there's a cost savings in there, yeah, I think it's worth looking into, but, on the other aspect, are we gonna find a company that, like you said, does it all? That's the mystery.
So again, we need to look at what the need is, right? Like, what is it?
I mean,
I'm
well, they
not
got-
asking right now, but understanding what it is that you guys use a cleaning service for versus what this
Well, use
building
it
needs.
for, what, carpet cleaning and then,
she's pretty thorough, so we
Yeah,
have to.
Toilets,
yeah.
sinks, vacuuming the children's room, she pretty much does a
Yeah, okay.
dusting.
We are 10 minutes late, 7 minutes late for a public hearing. Any final comments or questions? Thanks,
Again,
ladies.
thank you for
Appreciate it.
squeezing us in like this, it is very much appreciated, and I will send that detail over.
Thank you, appreciate that. All right, we are now going to move to a public hearing. And this public hearing is regarding the acceptance of up to $275,000 in unanticipated funds from the legislator appropriations in 2022. This is pursuant to RSA 31:95-B. And it relates to unanticipated New Hampshire retirement system funds, unanticipated bridge aid revenue, and unanticipated highway block grant revenue. Do I need to do anything else besides that to open the public hearing?
You open the hearing, it should also include expenditure, accept and expend.
Well, we haven't made the motion yet.
Yeah, we'll say that one.
Yeah.
Okay, good.
So this is just, I mean, the bridge aid and the highway block grants, those aren't unusual. We've had those in the past. The retirement system, we haven't had that in the past, though, right? And that's to be expended for retirement of police and fire, full-time employees. So it's basically unanticipated revenue that gets allocated for specific purposes. So I'll take any public comment, if anyone has any.
Thank you. Maureen Campiola, 5 Guerriere. I guess my biggest question is, how does anybody even know that this public hearing was happening?
We post it and advertise it.
Where? I didn't see it on the website. I looked today, I looked at the agenda, it just said there was a public hearing, but it didn't say what it was about. It just said, public hearing at 7 o'clock. Didn't indicate that it was to discuss this money or this expenditure.
It was in the newspaper.
It's in the newspaper, it gets posted in the
That's
post
what's required,
office.
is newspaper.
You mean the
posting.
one that came out a month ago?
No,
That one?
the
What newspaper?
Union leader?
union leader, probably Foster's as well.
The useless leader?
We put it in the newspaper. It was required to go in the newspaper, actually.
Okay, you don't think it would be a good idea to actually post it on the website like it is other public hearings?
I think
Have
we'll
it
try to.
posted?
We'll try to do that in the future, yes.
Yeah, I'm surprised it's not. If it wasn't, it was just an oversight, not a, it's on the website?
Where is
Okay.
it? I didn't see it, because I've looked.
I just saw it today.
Yeah, I'm reading it right here.
What she said.
It was posted on October 4th, 10:45, Nottingham Select Board hold a public hearing per se RSA 31.
Under the
regarding
announcements?
accepted, yep, just had to go right there under home news and announcements.
I must have not scrolled far enough down.
Okay.
Thank you.
Any questions with regards to the acceptance of the funds? Okay, with no further comments or question, I'll close the public hearing. Any discussion amongst the board?
You said something about pensions, using some of that money for pensions. I just wanna make sure I understood you correctly. If we were to use some of that funds, that doesn't mean that only covers this year, it doesn't cover next year, so actually, we're kinda kicking the ball down, the can down the road a little further, because we'll have to make up that difference next year? How does that work?
Yeah, in the past, the state used to pay a portion of the police and fire
Right.
retirement. They stopped doing that, and because they had budget surplus this year, they contributed some, like they would have in the past, towards the cost of retirement. So what this will do is offset some of our expenditure for retirement funds. It's a one-time, you're right, it's not, there is a $1 billion shortfall in the pension fund, and it's gonna take years to make that up. This is just them giving some back to the community at this point in time.
You answered, thank you.
Yeah, I mean, my own belief is they should have put it towards reducing the unfunded liability of the pension fund, but this is the way I mean, we don't want to turn it down, but I agree with you, it should have gone towards something.
We don't want to turn it down.
All right, so I'm gonna make a motion that the select board vote to accept and expend up to $275,000, which includes A, unanticipated New Hampshire retirement system funds to be expended for retirement of police and fire full-time employees. B, unanticipated bridge aid revenue, and to expend same on repair and maintenance of 7 town bridges as defined by NHDOT. And C, unanticipated highway block grant revenue, and to expend the latter upon repair, maintenance, and construction of municipal bridges, repair and maintenance of Class 4 and 5 roads, and/or to acquire the equipment necessary to maintain Class 4 and 5 roads. Said funds are restricted to activities that supplement, not supplant, local budgets, i.e. the supplement, not supplant provision requires that these funds must add to, supplement, and not replace, supplant locally budgeted funds.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Right.
All right, thank you. We didn't have any assessing tonight, right, okay.
Was it-
Yeah, Facilities Assessment Committee, are you all here? You're all here? So you wanna go 4 minutes early? No, 15 minutes early?
19.
Come on up, come on up.
Well, let's see, when did we see you last July?
Just, yeah, for purposes of the record, just name and address, please.
Gary Anderson, 50 Guile Road.
Paul Delaire, 47 Stevens Hill Road.
I forgot to add, if you have results, that we part of it, that can take.
Okay, thanks. All right, so, what's going on, guys?
Okay, so, well, we started meeting July 22nd, we've been meeting every 2 weeks. We do have, I have to say, I really have a terrific group of 5 of us. Been busy talking with department heads, really pulling a lot of information together throughout. So I just want to make sure that you all got our report and
Y'all got
hopefully
it.
had a chance to take a look at it.
Looks like you said everything's perfect, we don't need anything, right?
I think you missed the report. Do you wanna go building by building, or do you wanna go?
Well, let's let them just kind of go through the way they want to go through it.
So, yes, we'll begin with really the one area, that stood out for us most. Well, first of all, before I even get into that, I want to just say that we're not completed yet, but being especially budget season, we're hoping that what we have to bring before you guys, maybe, you know, there would be a possibility of some action being taken, so. We're giving you kind of what we can. We actually did, in the last few weeks, kind of hurry to put a report of some kind together so that you would have something in front of you for budget season. Whatever you want, Paul.
Well, I think when we talked before, we were talking a little bit about trying to find those issues that are immediate, short-term, mid-term, and long-term. So what we've tried to do is exactly that, and we've, based on the discussions and the viewing that we've done on where we were at now is we've spoken to Public Works, Police, Fire, and Recreation primarily. That encompasses the highway garage, the recycling center, the old fire station, the police station, the fire station, and everything that recreation is involved with. So I think what we've found as kind of a common theme amongst those things, and we've highlighted as probably more of an immediate step, is the lack of a common maintenance resource. And I know this has kind of been an ongoing issue over the years and kind of gets put into the budget and kicked out of the budget. But it is an issue, and it's definitely inherent in pretty much every department and every facility on a small scale and a large scale. There's just a lot of deferred maintenance that it doesn't happen because there's nobody really to do it. And there's no real responsibility of each department head to get that done because they don't have resources to get that done. It's an ongoing issue that I think, and I think as we've discussed as a committee, it's gonna continue to grow, and it's gonna continue to become, small projects are gonna be turning into bigger projects because of this. Things like, there's nobody to change locks if there's a lock that needs to be changed. There's nobody to change ceiling tiles. Whose job is it to change the ceiling tiles? If the floor needs to be repaired, if there's painting that needs to be done. These are all like small manageable projects that just continue to get moved down the road. And I think it's one of those things that every department seems to suffer from in every facility.
And I'd get to piggyback on that, I'd say that almost every department head did say to us, we would like to just have some avenue, you know, to say, we got a list of 3 items this month that need to be taken care of. We'd like to be able to report that somehow, some way, and know that it goes to the right entity to make that happen. So that's kind of what we were hearing from really every department head. Well, I did want to also back up for a second and just say that the areas that we have not really touched on fully, mainly is this building. So we did start, so the departments that we had time to talk with and consider were rec, police, and we did talk with Chris Sterndale before he left, so we had that input, but we still have, I think as a committee, we agree that there's more consideration in this building to look at, so.
So given that, but this is a great report, by the way, but given that, do you think it's kind of like premature, your point about maintenance being a common problem, that's spot on, and we all know that, right? Given that you still haven't done this building, is it premature to ask, like, some of the things that you would see beyond that as priorities coming up?
As far as maintenance,
Or just in general of what you're finding? Because, you know, there were things in here about, like, people not even having spaces to take a break, right?
Right, so, yeah, so that's second tier probably of like midterm type projects that could be considered. Obviously, and you know that Courtney gave you a good presentation for some of her needs.
Yeah.
As far as recreation department goes. That's what we've seen so far is a very prominent project that seems to be a reasonable need. As well as some of the DPW real requests as well. I mean, they don't really have a good area in that highway garage to accommodate some storage of some sensitive electronic equipment and accommodate the guys when they're out plowing and they need to come back for one thing or another. So that, those are like fairly clear-cut projects that could easily be done. And as far as cost goes, well, it depends on the expansiveness of the project, but you could keep those things to a reasonable minimum and be able to accommodate some of the short-term needs that they might have. And be able to bring, obviously, some of these things are about employee retention too. I mean, if we don't have those facilities for employees to want to work here, they're gonna go and we just listened to the library have a similar problem. So we have some of those issues in these departments as well, and I think it's kind of important to consider that in what each department's needs are. Those are probably the two midterm type issues that are on the table that we've noticed so far.
so really the maintenance being number one, and what Paul just described, rec and highway,
Yep.
the two smaller projects, if you will, that could really mean a lot for those
Have a
departments.
big impact, yeah,
Right.
okay.
So, more bang for your buck, so to speak.
Questions, comments, guys?
I don't even think we've touched, I read the whole thing today. There's so much more information what they're not even telling us.
Oh,
Do you want them to go through each of the buildings?
Do you wanna go into everything?
I mean, your list of stuff that needs to be fixed is expansive. I mean, it's huge in this.
Well,
Of
there
every
are
department,
more
every
things.
building you
There's-
went to, everything here, and what you said, I mean,
There's a lot of detail in the report we gave you.
oh, yeah, again, a lot more than that's what I'm saying. It's a lot more than what you're even talking about.
Are you asking them to kind of give us the highlights of some of it now?
Well, I mean, again, we're talking tiers, we're talking about things to get done, but we're talking a lot of money.
Of course, yeah,
Let's not get out of the fact that what they're suggesting or bringing up is a lot of money. It's not going to be when he says, you know, these minor, there's nothing of the two things that he said that are gonna be less than $10,000 fixes. You're not gonna put a room on the fire station for, I mean, that's gonna be a 20, 30, or no, excuse me, on the highway department building. That's 34, who knows how much that's gonna be. I mean, we already know what the dump looks like, cause, I mean, the recycling center. So I wanna be proper in my terms, you know, for what they're looking for, cause they don't really have a break room or anything, and these are stuff that you quoted. These are big expenses, these are
Yeah.
not minor expenses to the town.
what I would envision is that, like, once they complete their report and their assessment, that we would almost have to sit down and look at the specific recommendations and build them out into the CIP.
Sure, but like you,
Absolutely. There's going to be,
But
so we
as-
know there are gonna be some more of what you're describing, John, as, you know,
again,
bigger items.
Yeah.
I wanna play the bad guy here, just because good at, but we put in our CIP, no offense to the highway department or the dump, or the recycling center, you ain't seeing nothing for 5 or 6 years. So go to your retention of trying to keep somebody happy for that much in what we're offering them. We ain't getting anywhere forward, we're just beating the same horse we've done forever.
But, you know, okay.
No, again, I'm
address
just,
the elephant in
I'm
the
just trying
room.
to say that it's just,
you're
we don't
right.
have the money to do
You
it.
said it costs money. So-
Yeah.
So this is exactly what you're describing. Okay, it's like your home has not been maintained for 20 years, and all of a sudden you're gonna
Well,
start
that's why you built a new
maintaining
one.
it.
Don't maintain, just build. I'm done, time to move.
But, you know, so now we're starting at square one to begin that process of maintaining a home that really is way behind the 8 ball.
Absolutely.
That's what we're seeing.
Right.
so.
And honestly, there's, these smaller projects that we're talking about, like, you know, at the rec and those, at the highway garage and stuff like that, that they're not, we're not recommending them on a basis that they're gonna solve all the problems that we have. They're realizing that any major capital improvement project in the plan is going to be down the road quite a ways. This is help to hopefully alleviate, in the meantime, some of the issues that they're facing every day.
You can't fix space issues, though.
You can't fix space issues, that's, and if you look in the report, that's why when we've reviewed the,
Is there any one
especially the
particular area in
recycling
this
center.
report that stands out in your mind that's worse than the others?
Well, if you look at the
I
recycling
want you to say
center,
it so the folks at home can hear you.
yeah, the recycling center really is limited by site and building. You can't restructure that in any way to make it more viable.
So-
And really the concern, I think, there is more, is that a good site for it to be at, or do we need to consider moving it to somewhere else and combining it with at the Smoke Street Pit or something like that? Because I think there may be something, and again, if that happens, that would be way down the road.
Way down the road.
Yeah. So these are smaller things that hopefully would be able to alleviate some of the space issues.
So here's how I view this. You know, these guys are doing what we asked them to do. We asked you to go out and do an assessment, right? And I personally think that there's probably an awareness issue with people in town who see these old buildings but don't really understand what's going on, what kind of shape they're in, you know, what the impact is on our ability to hire and retain employees, right? So I think that this is the beginning, kind of like an education and awareness process. And I think, you know, we do our best to see if we can map it out to, you know, some kind of a CIP type format. But at the end of the day, we put it towards the voters and let the voters decide, right? You come up with what you think the priority is, you come up with the plan and you put it forward on a warrant article and you let voters decide how important that is. But you have to give them the whole picture of, you know, what's going on with the facilities, why maintenance is really hurting the town overall, and, you know, what the options are.
And this is why in a way, we were a little reluctant to even bring a report at this point, as you mentioned, because we know we're not completed, and we'd rather, we really we want to bring a full report, something that you can really, mull over for long-term, not, you know, both short-term and long-term.
Yep.
But,
Yep.
and now Paul mentioned, and this is kind of Paul's got into recycling, which is kind of I'll call it the third tier that we've looked at, but along with that is also police. Because while recycling, there's not only maintenance issues, it's also safety issues. So there's also a similar situation with the police department and their location, their space requirements, a lot of.
Yep.
Now, we're just touching on this right now, but we'll give you the full
Yep.
report.
Do me a favor, when you share documents like this, put draft in 32-point bold, you know, font so that everybody knows that it's not a final report. Questions about?
I thought this was well thought out. I look forward to see what your final is.
Yeah, me too.
We appreciate, you know, you're working with us all along through this process.
So I want to throw out a suggestion, or I want to throw out two suggestions. One is, if you guys can put together some kind of, not necessarily a report of findings, but a report of what this committee is doing and what you've what you've done, what the purpose is, what the goal is, all of that. If we can have that kind of a report that we can put in the town report, I think that that would be really helpful as far as starting to get that awareness
As
out
far
there.
as what our process has been.
Yep, exactly. And then at some point, once you do have like your report done, do you remember 50 years ago when we started Marston? And
Wasn't that long ago.
and we did that session with New Hampshire Listens, and they came in and they facilitated dialogue to really hone in on like what's important to people and, you know, where they thought the priorities were. We can think about maybe does a session like that help to really get input from people in town, from the community, what the community wants to see and wants to prioritize. So, just a thought.
Sounds good, makes sense.
Anything else? Good, thanks, guys.
Thank you. Thank you.
Sure. Sure. It's related to that, right?
It is,
Okay.
definitely. Teresa Bascom, Stage Road. I would like to know who is responsible for the fact that we have our buildings in Nottingham in need of such repair that it's going to cost the taxpayers thousands and thousands of dollars. I thought that the purpose of what you all did and having a town administrator was supposed to be looking after not only Marston property and other things, but the fact that, and town roads, which I know are important, but the fact that our buildings, because when I was working in one of the offices here just a couple of years ago, I made mention of the fact that water comes in the window when it rains and floods the floor. So you know that the window frame is not sealed over, and eventually that's gonna pop out, and I was told it will take care of that. Granted, I've not worked there, but I don't even know that that's been fixed, because I asked to have the TA get back to me on it and never got anything. The mold in the back of this building is so bad that if you go back there, you have to wear a mask or not stay very long because you can't breathe. The building is falling in so bad that the police department can't even use it for their vehicles. Why is not some of our money going into maintaining what we have so that we don't have to resort to building another building because it's falling apart?
So first off, we'll address this, but I do not want this part of the meeting to turn into complaints about the building, please, okay? Because we do have a full agenda. And what I was looking for comment on, or what I thought you were gonna comment on, was the process.
I am, because
The process that the committee has gone through.
the process has been that, I mean, their report is so extensive because the process hasn't been taking care of what we have. So now they're having to go through and make a list of everything and maybe come up with your top 3 or 4, but it should never have gotten to this point.
Ben?
Well, part of that is, I think everybody's well aware of the labor market right now. We can't even find people to fill secretary positions, police, fire, or we even had the maintenance position out there not long ago.
I'm
just for-
talking about years ago.
Yeah, I'm just giving you a heads up why some of these buildings are the way they are right now, is because, you know, there's not a lot of qualified people applying for these jobs, and because the market pool is so depleted. People who are retired don't wanna do this anymore, people who are, you know, coming out of high school don't wanna do this anymore. So it just leaves the folks that already have jobs or own businesses, can't find employees either, and they're just tapped out, you know?
So nothing's gonna get fixed.
I'm sorry?
Is it so nothing will get fixed, is what you're saying essentially? And that's okay, I just was thinking it should have been,
Let's-
us all
let's
along
move
putting
on.
money.
Let's move on. We could debate it all night, but
I was gonna say, we had a line item last year for a person to come and be a maintenance guy, but we cut it. Cause it costs too much money.
okay,
We also hired somebody during the year to come in and do maintenance, and
That
that
didn't work
didn't go
out.
anywhere either.
Nope.
town clerk. Come on down. Hey, Lori.
Front page,
What, front page?
front page.
No, thank you. Name for the record.
Oh, Laurie Anderson, I'm the town clerk. So the first thing that I wanted to review with you is what happens to the money that the town clerk's office collects. So we're a revenue generator for the town. And every transaction that we do, a portion of it stays with the town, and another portion goes to the state. Much more stays with the town. And so far, this year, we have collected $1,100,661.50 for the town.
That's what's come to the town?
Yes. So, over the year, last 2 years, it's estimating about, averaging about 100,000 per month. Some months are lower, maybe 95. Some months could be 125. That comes in. It's hard to tell. 2020 was a weird year where people bought a lot of stuff. They bought a lot of big trucks, they bought motorhomes, they bought trailers galore. They bought boats, so they needed a trailer for their boat. That year was unusually high, but on average, between 100 and 110,000. So I'm thinking we might be able to collect $1,320,000 this year for the town.
Okay.
And we're averaging about 40,000 more every year.
So what did you just say, 1.3?
Yeah.
Okay.
So we actually collected so far this year 1.4, but 363,000 had to be transferred to the state. And every day Betsy makes a transfer electronically to her. I tell her how much has to go over there, and that's where it goes. So a lot of the items on the budget are fees that are paid by the state, because we're municipal agents, and the state allots us fees for the transactions and the types of transactions that we do. The only line item, well, there might be two. The salary line item is actually how much we get paid per hour while we're there. And as you can see, I specified in there that I started at the rate that Sandy had been working at. And I haven't seen an increase since then. And Alana has gone through quite a bit of training, and she's pretty good at what she does, and people really like her. And I think that she deserves an increase. Last year, there was, what, a 4% increase for all of the employees, and we're not considered employees. So I was hoping that Alana could get something, but she wasn't. She didn't get anything. We don't get any sick time, vacation time, holiday time, nothing. We don't have any benefits at all from the town. It's strictly.
You are an elected official.
We are,
Yeah.
who generate a lot of money for the town.
I understand, but elected officials
Right,
don't
and I
get.
understand that, but every town does it differently. Sometimes the town clerk is an employee and gets full benefits, and
Yep.
each town operates it differently. So this is the way our town has decided to do it. And so those items there on the salary, I am asking for that. If we go down to the conference, this year I did.
Wait, hold on for a second.
Yeah.
So just, can you explain the fee line to me again?
So the fee line are the fees that the state allots to us for the transactions that we do.
So the state allots to us.
Yes, the clerks can collect a fee for each transaction
Correct.
they do,
Yeah.
per the state.
So why is,
Because we're municipal agents for the state of New Hampshire.
so why is this shown as a budget expenditure?
This is the way it's always been set up.
Does the 54,000 go to the clerk and the deputy clerk in terms of wage and fees? Is that what happens?
We're paid at an hourly rate plus the fees.
Plus
So
the
that's what
fees.
those fees are
So
right
these
there.
fees are going to you and the deputy then,
Right,
in addition to the hourly?
yes.
Yes, okay.
How do you split that? You split that evenly? How-
No, whoever does the transaction gets the fee. And because we work alone, while she was in training, we split them in half. But the days that Alana works, she collects the fees, and the day that I work, I collect those fees.
And it's a percentage, so that number goes up and down.
It depends on the volume and what type of transactions you do. If I do a marriage license, I get paid differently than if I do
Sure.
a renewal for a car.
Yeah. But presumably, and again, just my understanding, if we're talking about going from 1.1 million in revenue to 1.3, then presumably the fees that you guys get go up as well.
No, that's based on the volume, how many fees, how many transactions we do. If we had an increase of 500 cars in town, would be processing more registrations. But it's a set fee per vehicle.
The price of new vehicles, the mill rate on that is what's driving the big increase in the revenue for motor vehicles, I assume.
Yes.
Okay.
And, well, that doesn't affect it, because dealerships are adding costs onto cars, they're tacking on up to $5,000, but they still pay on the MSRP, customers do.
Motorhomes, those are nice when they come in, you
Motorhomes,
make good money.
They could go up to $350,000. And the town collects a lot of money on those. $3,000 or $4,000 per year.
Okay.
What has been done in towns that go to making the town clerk and deputy employees is basically the personnel plan, which includes leave time, health insurance, dental, those things, in lieu of collecting fees, then all the fees go into revenue. So that's a possibility for the town to consider. I think it takes a vote of the town meeting to
Yep.
make that
I
change.
assume so, yeah.
And we're one of the few towns that has part-time clerks only working one at a time.
I'm sorry, only working what?
We work alone.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, we don't work
That's
two
what
at
I
a
thought I heard,
time.
okay.
I had a discussion with Northwood a few weeks ago, just to ask them how they operated, and they're always there together. And another difference is I'm not the tax collector, where Northwood is the tax collector too.
Both, yeah. We've talked about that in the past.
Yeah, there are very few towns that town clerks aren't tax collectors.
Yeah.
And I do not want to be a tax collector.
But making them town employees, you could merge those two, right?
Yep.
Well, it takes a vote of the town meeting to make
Yeah,
any change. It would then take a year before it took effect, because to merge them, it doesn't happen instantly, it happens on the next election cycle. The change to make them employees could happen, within a reasonable number of weeks after the town meeting.
Wonder what the cost savings in that would be.
We should look into it.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know
Could
if,
cost more, yeah.
Well, I think it's worth looking into anyway,
yeah, I'm not sure the cost savings are the issue. It's a matter of retention and, to what extent does the town clerk value benefits and leave time in terms of wanting to go that direction.
I mean, I kind of like having a couple of days a week off.
Well, that's the current with the part-time and, yeah.
Right.
So your preference is to keep it the way it is then?
In the future, I think we're gonna have to work at least some of the week 2 on in the future. Just because of the amount of tasks that we have to do.
Are you still doing it by appointment only, or people can walk in now?
Still by appointment. Yep.
Now, you
I
generally
mean, today
book-
was the last day of the month. We had plenty of people walk in without appointments because they waited till the last day to renew.
Oh, right. But you pretty well booked, usually?
Pretty much, yeah. There was a period, I'll tell you that it slowed down a lot, I'd say in July. But I think a lot of it is the market. There aren't vehicles out there to buy. I drove past Toyota yesterday in Portsmouth and looked like there were 30 cars in the lot.
Okay, dues and conference?
Dues and conference. So I didn't go this year because I just felt like I needed to be in the office with the election coming up. And I would like for both of us to go next year, possibly 2 days to the conference. And that means that the office has to be closed for those 2 days. And where they've been holding it burned down in the summer, the Red Jacket. So they had it in Manchester, which was great because it's a commute. And maybe they'll have to do that next year as well.
So Lori, just so I can make sure the math's correct, so you had 600 for the 2022.
Right, and that was to stay over at the Red Jacket.
Okay. Oh, so that's why it's going down this year?
Yeah.
Because it's just the day fees?
That's right.
Okay, okay.
Equipment maintenance and support, I just put in the same figure because I have no idea. Some of it is for the Interware, hardware, the card reader. You have to pay them to upgrade everything all the time. And the other support service that we use when we really get stuck, and we call them, and they walk us out of a lot of issues. Office supplies, I don't really tend to buy a lot of office supplies, envelopes. Simple things. Mileage is when we go to training or conferences or regional meetings. And the phones, that's something that we could improve on in the future. We only have one phone. And so if there are two of us there, we can't make another phone call.
The supervisor's the checklist using the same phone as you?
They don't have a phone.
So are they using yours?
If they have to make a phone call, and the clerk is there, they'll borrow Tracy's phone, or they'll go over to the Board of Selectmen's office to use the phone.
Okay, okay,
Yeah, they did have a phone at one time, and we don't know what happened to it.
okay.
But
So-
they have a phone in their budget proposed.
Yes.
Sorry.
Yeah, they had it in there, yes.
Sorry, just-
Hey, John, has everybody, like, everybody's got postage increase across the board. Have we provided any guidance on, you know, how they should be coming up with that number, or is it just everybody going,
everybody's been on their own on that one.
okay,
The only one I gave guidance on was, as we discussed with police, 50% on gasoline,
yeah, yeah,
diesel,
yeah, yeah,
heat.
yeah.
And so on the postage, it's just a line item that's in there, but for every set of registrations that we process, we charge $1.50 for the postage. So if you had one registration renewal, or if you had 5 in the same transaction, there's $1.50, just $1.50 fee tacked on. So we actually recoup that money.
Where does that show? Does it come back as a revenue, or?
Should be,
It
should be in the
coming back
revenue
as revenue.
lines.
It is. And let's see, last year we collected $4,861.
Okay.
So that's a wash.
Yep.
And like this time of year, when we have the election coming up, we use a lot in postage just to do absentee ballots.
Yep.
So really, the only line that would make a difference would be line 26.
Questions? Comments? Ben?
I'm just trying to wrap my head around, you know, so it's based on whoever makes that transaction gets that fee.
That's right.
You guys work evenly? Even, you know,
I work 2 days, then she'll work 3, the next week I'll work the 3 days and she'll
so
work
it
2.
balances out, so you pretty much split it down the middle.
Yep.
No.
All good?
you don't have any questions, that's fine by me.
You get to go home early.
Oh, one,
No, maybe
sorry.
Gary's done, so I can.
gonna say, one last clarification. My understanding is the number you have in here for fees as an expenditure also shows as a revenue from somewhere, correct? It shows in the revenue lines.
Yes,
Yeah, just an FYI.
it's usually at the top, you know, we have the tax, real estate taxes, and then that line item.
Yeah, there's a group of, you've got several lines together on 434, and I think it's right in there.
Thank you. All right, up next, planning. Hey, Ed.
Hello, everybody. Good evening. Edward Veal, 17 Garland Road, Chair of the Planning Board. So I was here tonight to kind of just give an overview of the Planning Board budget as proposed, and then specifically, I believe there was an item in there looking for clarification specifically to our request for SRPC to be a dues-paying member of Stratford Regional Planning Commission. If I can just jump in, is that all right?
Yep, go ahead.
So first, I'll just look at the budget as proposed, where line items 98 through 111. I believe some of these, I'm sorry, through 113 for the total. Some of these, I don't know if this is the budget committee that creates the account name that's assigned to the line item number, but I believe some of these may be offsetting revenue. Like line 111 says legal engineering reimbursement offsetting revenue. That's for plans that I believe we send out and charge the applicant back. Advertising is one of those items where you can see like 2021 actual was almost $9,000 spent, where the budget was 2,500. 2022 so far 3,600. But advertising generally comes back as well. You know, that's a fee that's charged to the applicant.
Hey, Ed, let's, just for purposes of clarity, let's go line by line.
Sure, okay, yep.
So, salary for secretary,
Yeah, and that item, and it gets me the account name as well. So that position, based on the duties of the position, everywhere else in our documents, we changed the title of that to land use clerk.
Yeah.
So I don't know if we can get that amended. So I don't know, this salary is shared, is my understanding, with the zoning board. I think the planning board is the much bigger piece of the salary, or the usage of that position. So we had a land use clerk in there.
so this is the planning board portion of
Yeah,
it?
that's my understanding, correct. I believe there's a comparable or a separate
Okay.
zoning,
Yeah, line 115.
and I don't know what
It's
that
on
is.
115, okay.
So we had proposed bumping that up. 2022 budget was 15,200. We proposed bringing that up to 20,000, which is almost a 10% change. I don't know that that's sufficient. I guess I would be looking to this board. I know what the position is now advertised at for hourly. I've not done the math. But one of the things we were running into with the position is, I believe, 15 hours a week currently, or was. And the duties were
Way more than that.
way beyond the 15 hours, so we were well over budget, was my understanding.
Yeah, the budget between the two of you at $25 an hour is roughly 18 hours a week. I don't know if we can find somebody who'll only work 18 hours a week. That's,
And that was our reasoning for the increase, and it may not be sufficient, but the increase, the narrative I had included was to account for additional workload and to provide for more competitiveness in the hiring and retaining area.
So zoning has 2,400 for that
For the salary?
total, yeah. So you guys have 20 and they have 2,400? Does that make sense?
yeah.
Okay,
Yeah, that's probably
Okay, got it.
fair, because again, the planning board, we've had, I think we're somewhere in the 20s for how many cases we've had this year so far.
okay.
Not including continuations. The
Yep.
zoning's had, I think, a handful. I could be wrong on that part. Line 99, planning board planner. So this is a contracted position. last year, I believe it was the first year, the town contracted with Stratford Regional Planning Commission, for this as a contract position. So the budget is kind of set for that. The one interesting thing with that is it's a, the SRPC contract is June to June. It's not a calendar year, so our budget's calendar year. So we're already locked in through June of next year for 28,000, or 25,000, somewhere in that area, maybe 25,000. So again, what we're seeing with caseload in the complexity of cases, and you're gonna hear this is kind of repeated a few times, what we're getting, caseload has not diminished, it's only increased, and the complexity of the cases tend to be getting harder. We're seeing most of the cases now have areas that are, sensitive or critical areas, wetlands, steep slopes, things of that nature. We're also seeing an increase of things on what was formerly private roads and now town roads. Those are always interesting cases. They take a lot more time in review. So some of the planning board planner duties that we contract for, we're not able to utilize right now because of, they're at capacity with just plan set review. And then, and those other duties are generally, town map updates, master plan, potential updates, zoning and site subdivision site plan regulation updates and warrant articles and things of that nature. And historically, if you go back far enough, I've been on the planning board a little over a decade. When I joined, we had our building enforcement, code enforcement officer, Paul Colby, also wore a planning hat. I think he had training for it. So he also filled in that planner role. And we had a land use clerk at that time as well, Lisa. And over time, we've had a few others, Joanne, then Joanna, and then Kevin. And if I missed anybody, I apologize. But when that code enforcer left, that's when this became a contract position. It was trying to figure out, do we try to hire a planner, part-time planner? But again, the market wasn't even as crazy as it is now to try to hire, find people. But now the plan was then it's hard to hire someone for part-time in that position for what we could pay. So that's when we contracted it out, because it's a fixed cost, there's no benefits, that kind of thing. So you can kind of plan for it a lot better and hopefully have more support from like a whole office of Stratford Regional Planning versus, if you just have one employee and they jump to the next town for better pay or conditions or whatever, they, now you have a void. So it gave us kind of a little bit more redundancy in that area. That's that one. Line 100 planning board postage, I believe this is a reimbursable expense, so this might be one, if that's confirmed, that we would maybe look at changing that name just to make it clear for everybody. Like, I think as we go through this, sometimes we're confused as like, okay, is this money that comes, yes, we pay it out, so we have to budget for it, but it comes back in because it's paid for by the applicant. And I believe almost all postage that we do is. So we kept that, we reduced it, based on that assumption that we have to keep, enough funds in there, but in the end, it's coming back in. Planning board printing, change it to $1. It was my understanding on budgets that you shouldn't have a zero line for multiple years. And to be honest, I'm not certain what that line really is. I think in the past, they used to account for number of pages that were printed in the office, and that kind of just became a, overall expense for the town. Line 102, planning board dues and conferences, we reduced it a bit. We do want to keep that in there, based on, so that's for trainings and education. So we've had, even though we've had a pretty consistent set of board members, it's always good to have funds and encourage training as laws change, land use laws change and things of that nature, as well as when we bring on a new person is elected, that they see that we encourage them to get training by having funds in the item there. Line 103, planning board publications, that's for those RSA manuals, the land use books, and those come in about that amount every year. I think they're like $8 a piece, so we're right about there. that number will be changing because they were just ordered in, September or October. 104, Planning Board Registry of Deeds. We reduced this, so we've been shifting that kind of back to the applicant responsibility. It used to be that the land use clerk would generally, when they got a signed Mylar, or a plan that has to get recorded at the Registry of Deeds, they would be driving it to the Registry of Deeds. So we're getting mileage then in whatever other fees. Instead now, we've been signing them, the land use clerk's been letting the applicant know, hey, we have these, they're available, you wanna pick them up and bring them down, or we can bring them down next week. Usually they have somebody there the next day to get them and get them down there, so that's why we reduced, that line. And it looked like that's been the case for the last couple of years. 105, Planning Board Advertising, again, that's a reimbursable expense to my knowledge, so we left that flat. 106, Planning Board Office Supplies, to my knowledge, there's no, big ticket supplies needed, so we left that as a flat item as well. 107, Planning Board Equipment, same thing, just kept as a dollar. There's no planned purchases for 2023 that I am aware of. 108, mileage, we left that at the 250. That's generally was reimbursable to people that went to conferences. They would put in for mileage, especially if they were further away. So it kind of goes hand in hand with 102. 109, Planning Board Master Plan, Town Map. We proposed bumping that up to 1,000 this year. We're overdue for our master plan update. They should be done every 5 to 10 years. We're at the 10-year mark now. We did a major overhaul 10 years ago. And we're behind now with getting updates done. So part of that is,
But the master plan is gonna take almost 2 years to do. It's not something we just do in 2 months and get it done. It's a
right.
long process.
So we were looking at this as possibly being a recurring number for a few years, or,
Right, so I just wanna, that's always why I'm bringing it up.
or doing it like there was talk about potentially doing like a separate item for like a warrant article where, like we do with assessing, where it's a 5-year plan, so we, budget this amount, X amount for 5 years, and then the funds are there.
Because I'm just gonna bring this up too,
Yes.
because remember back, you were on the board, when I was on the board, I think when we did this, we actually hired a planner to actually work with us on this project and go over all the different items.
I believe
We
so.
were paying a private guy, an individual, out of that. So it was a whole nother item that we had to account for in the budget.
Yeah, and we,
planning.
and we don't foresee it being, so 10 years ago, that master plan update was major. So it was bringing in all new tables, everything else. There's different ways to do it. So at minimum, we need to go through just the data and update where census data's come out, because that comes out, doesn't, it'd be great if it all came out right after the census is done. They say, here's all the data, but it rolls out over the course of years. And by the time you get the data in, most of the time it's old, it could be 3, 5, 10 years old at that point, but it's the most current, at that point. There are other things that could be done to try to, a big part of a master plan is trying to get community input for it. So, cause that's the guiding document for planning, zoning, that's our formation, not our formation document, but it kind of guides us in those documents. So having,
So this is something you think that the planning board can do, maybe with the guidance of Stratford Regional?
that would probably be it. So we have a couple of items. One option is doing an RFP and sending out.
Yeah.
Another option is using the planners that we currently have and just trying to budget it in somehow. I know their capacity for right now isn't there, but if we were able to book it out a bit, could they be?
We had a whole separate committee for the master plan when we redid this. There wasn't, there was like 2 planning board members that were actually on and out of the board, but then we had other people in town that were volunteering to help do the master plan. And then we had a private guy that was coming in, that was working with those committee, which we were paying, in order to get all the documents in a row, to get everything all done. It was and again, I don't wanna say, this was a process. I did 6 years on the planning board, and literally, I sat there for 3 years almost going through with this map plan. This was not something that was taken care of. So this is going to be an expense. It needs to be spent on, but I just want you to know there will be expense for it.
Well, one of the ways that I've seen towns do it is chapter by chapter, plan a couple of chapters every year to get around. And rather than doing it all at once every 10 years,
start a cycle where
That's
you're
the
gonna
way to do
do,
it too.
you're gonna do transportation and ecology or whatever this year, and next year you're going to do, you know, and just break it out by chapter. If you look at the whole thing, it's overwhelming, and you're absolutely right, there's an awful lot of work to it. But if you can tackle it chapter by chapter and kind of time those chapters based on census release, because as you say, they release different stuff at different times. Regional planner should be able to help us know which chapters the data will be there for. That's just a thought, to work it out, so that you're updating pieces of it, but by chapter, and that way they're.
I think that was kind of the plan, so we, the planning board, this has been an item on our radar for 3-4 years at least, you know, where, okay, we need to start updating this, try to create a subcommittee, and, you know, COVID was a part of that delay, yeah, because I think it was starting to form just before that, and then it's just been caseload, so we've been,
Okay, let's jump to miscellaneous.
yeah. So miscellaneous, so there isn't a line item for it now, that's why we put it here, so. Last year, we put it on the budget and it was cut. We're including it on the budget again. So this is a request for Nottingham to become a dues-paying member of Stratford Regional Planning Commission. Years ago, the choice was made, this was pre me being on the planning board. At one point, I guess we were on Rockingham Planning Commission. We left that and joined Stratford Regional Planning Commission. That's all I know, other than hearsay. I think it was something to do with the towns around us, or mostly Stratford, on, you know, we have Northwood, Lee, and Barrington on this side, and then obviously Raymond is Rockingham. So we are one of only 2 communities within the Stratford Regional Planning Commission that is not a dues-paying member. The other one is, I think it's Brookfield, population 700-ish. Every other town that is part of the commission is a dues-paying member. And the dues are, the way they calculate the dues, it's by population. So based on our most recent population estimate, the dues for 2024 would be just about $6,500. $6,500 for the year. And what that gets us, there's a whole slew of additional services that gets us. One that we're already kind of benefiting from was that when we did sign up to have the contracted planner, since we had it in our budget to become a dues-paying member as well, they gave us the dues-paying member rate for their planner, the contract planner, so the hourly rate, which is $5 to $10 less than normal. We're still at that rate, but realistically, you know, realistically, that number should be higher, which would mean less hours of the contract planner for the same dollar amount that we're already paying there. Let's see. And I do have some information about SRPC. So SRPC, the Planning Commission, the RSA for that is 36:45 purpose. Shall prepare a coordinated plan for development of a region, taking into account present and future needs, and it goes on from there. We've had a difficult time getting people to sign up for the commissioner role, so every town is allowed commissioners to be a part of the planning commission. But where we're not dues paying members, our commissioners don't have a vote in certain matters. And that's been disheartening or disincentive to jump into that role and serve that role if you're going and you can't even vote on bylaws and budget and certain other items.
What's an example of something that you really, really wished we had voting input on?
I'm not certain, to be honest. I have not served the commissioner role, but I think just overall not having input, not being able to vote on the bylaws or the budget is a big part. And let's see. SRPC, so we're gaining benefits of their work, of the commission's work. They're currently working on updating our local groundwater and drinking water protection regulations, which correspond to our master plan and the aquifer and wellhead protection area, maps, which we'll be reviewing soon. And part of that was a grant, so they were able to, they used some of these funds to get matching grants or offsetting grants. So every dollar that they get from dues, generally, they're able to leverage against, for grants and other funding. Finances, municipalities or counties, the RSA 3649 is what gives us our authority to appropriate funds for regional planning use. But in there, it specifically states failure upon the part of any municipality to pay its proportionate annual share of the costs shall constitute a termination of such municipality or county's vote in the commission's affairs until such share is paid. Justification, some of the reasons for our proposed budget on this, or for this, is again, increased caseload and complexity. A number of our cases have been declared of regional impact, which again involves the regional planning commissions. Let's see. More. Some of the cases we'll be looking at and looking for assistance on would be, you know, we expect more commercial industrial type cases coming before us, support outside of the board. They provide support to our town staff, our land use clerk, as a backup and or first point of contact. And then, well, they help guide us too on recent legislation changes. You know, like one of the big ones was that land use boards now have to provide very specific written findings of fact for an approval or disapproval before it's a notice of decision. Now you have to be very clear, especially if you ever have a disapproval. Otherwise, you know, it can go get overturned.
Does anybody have any questions for Ed?
Yeah. And happy to join, happy to go before the budget committee as well, but want to come to this board first, obviously. In your review, we do have documentation from Stratford Regional Planning as to what the dues kind of also include. And I believe you have a copy of that. I think you sent me it, so. But there's a lot of other duties that they.
John, can you send that to us, please?
Yeah, can you just mail me a copy of that again, so I make sure I have the one you have there
sure.
to them?
Yep.
Great. All right, thank you, Ed.
All right, thank you all. Appreciate
Just
it.
wanna make sure you get the copy that he's talking
Yeah,
about.
yeah.
Couple of quick items. We are paying attention to CIP, so we have impact fees. I heard that mentioned a couple times tonight. So currently, we still have a fire impact fee. We've not changed it as of yet, awaiting CIP season to come out. If there's anything on there that may be impact fee related, we'd be looking to that as we amend our fee. If there is nothing, that fee will likely go to zero, because it was for the bond,
Okay.
which has been paid off.
Okay.
If police becomes a part where something may be impact fee related there, we don't have a police impact fee yet, we could add it in through a vote. So if that seems like it's gonna CIP and become an item, that would be another area we can help offset potentially.
Okay.
So thank you all, appreciate your time.
Lorraine, can you capture an action item, just to make sure that once we have the CIP finalized, that we make sure that the planning board reviews and has input? It won't necessarily be the next meeting, but I just don't wanna lose track of that. All right, fire. Oh, sorry. Chief, come on up.
How are you? I don't have the same copy you have. I don't have item numbers, so I'm gonna go by account names if that works, okay?
Yeah, for us, it starts on 198.
Okay. You looking for me, Stephen? Are you waiting for me? You are. I'm gonna pass something on. Place it down.
Thank you.
Why don't you use mine?
Oh, thank you, sir. I appreciate it. 198.
Thank you.
Thank you. That's just something I believe I owed you from the last time. My name's Jay Vilchak, Fire Chief and Emergency Management Director, Town of Nottingham. Good. Thank you, sir. I just wanted, the letter I just presented to John, it has to do with the ARPA funds and the list of recommendations that are emergency services related to be considered. The bottom line are, most of these items were contained in the CIP that I submitted this year. I could provide any of the quotes that I have and pursue any additional quotes if the board thinks it's necessary. Okay? Fire station door safety system we talked about, fire station meeting room floor replacement, the epoxy ceiling of the fire station bay floors, the leak repair for the fire station when the panels were put up for the solar system. We gained a leak in the roof there. Fire station meeting room door rain protection. We got a problem with that door, especially in the wintertime with the water backing up. Some minor corrosion around the door frames. Another CIP item was the replacement of the portable radios for the entire department. The base radio, which has been in service since we moved in there in 2007. It's time to refresh that because technology has changed and that one's not serviceable anymore. Cascade is out there in the out years to replace. That's the SCBA charging system. There's nothing wrong with it right now. It still passes the test. It's been in service since we got it on a 9/11 grant, to give you an idea, since 2001. So we've had that in service for a while. Parts are starting to get hard to get for it. The one that's a surprise on the bottom, and that just came to me, you know, the town doesn't have a emergency shelter. Maybe talk about possibly a generator for the school to set that up.
School doesn't have a generator?
Negative.
Well, they should pay for that then.
I believe they put that in the CIP last year. I don't remember what year they wanted to do it,
Yeah,
but I know it was on the horizon.
okay.
I think it's separate ARPA funds.
I don't know.
Does this all fall under, guidelines of how we can use
Yeah,
all of this?
yeah.
It's yet, I don't know how to answer for you guys. The top was a quote that I found that kind of like the guidelines for the ARPA, that italics portion. So, anyway, I don't want to derail your meeting there. I wanted to get that on the table because I'm willing to discuss and be part of any of that discussion.
Jay, just as a reminder, what we said earlier was that there's an input session. We'll be soliciting public input in 2 weeks.
14th, correct?
Yes, yep.
Okay, I plan on attending if the creek don't rise. We're good.
Okay.
198, where do we go? 198, that's police department, no, that's fire department, okay. There we go, okay. All right, starting right off with full-time salary, line number 198. That number there reflects 48-hour work weeks, 52 weeks a year, times 6 employees, with an average pay of $22, what I'm hearing. My highest paid person gets paid less than an entry-level highway or planner. So maybe we ought to have a discussion about salary ranges offline sometime in the future. I currently have 4 full-time employees on the books. I've got 1 verbal commitment that's gonna start after the first of the year that I'm excited about, and I have 1 open slot. Caveat, I just got a notice today that one of my new employees that's been here for a month has got snapped up by Epping for increased money. So that conversation, I'm in a do loop here with employees, you noticed that. So anyway, all right.
Yeah,
so,
how big was the percentage increase?
About 10. Yep.
Okay.
Yep. Yep, it's about 10, okay?
Okay.
Yep,
$10?
10%. 10% aye. Yep. Okay. Overtime salary represents 450 hours for 8 hours per week. That roughly comes out to 8 hours overtime per week. That's overtime for the full-time staff, not necessarily being used, but if there's an incident that they need to stay over for, that would be tapped into.
450 hours a year.
Yes, that's
Got
correct.
it.
Yep. My part-time salary is showing 48 hours, which would represent the Sundays, because the whole scheme for the full-time staff was 6 days a week. Sundays was gonna be covered by per diem folks. That would cover 2 people on a Sunday for 24 hours times the 52 weeks per year, okay? With an average pay there of $20, and that's considerably more than what I pay most of my per diem folks anyway, so, but I'm part of that discussion. Okay?
So wait, Chief, I'm sorry, I just want to make sure I understand. So you've got the full-time, you've got the overtime, which is about an average of 8 hours per week that goes to the full-time.
Yes,
And then you've got the part-time salary, which covers Sunday
yep,
plus some other bucket of what's needed.
correct. And
Overtime.
that bucket may include when my full-time staff goes to class, or if they call out, that sort of
Got
stuff.
it.
If I can fill that shift with a per diem person, that would
Okay.
cover that.
And that line,
Vacation.
that number has gone down because of the increase in the full-time
That's
staff.
correct.
Got it, okay, thanks.
That's correct, just, some of the rationale behind the salary stuff is, we're increasing with this full-time schedule, we're increasing, 6 times 24, 96 hours, a total of almost 15,000 full-time man-hours. 14,976 is how many man-hours, for those 6 days a week, okay? Previous year, full-time were scheduled, 40 times 52, and there were 3 of them, and that was like 6,000 hours, so it's a considerable increase in the number of covered hours, okay? That was the Warren article that was covered, I have nothing input on there. Service contracts, you want me to highlight the changes there? The changes?
Yeah, let's just do the changes.
Okay, chief salary shows the 4% increase that was all the employees received this year. That shows to a $440 increase. Breathing apparatus, I have it raised, let's see, I show a $400 increase, and that's based on what our annual maintenance costs are for the SCBA's, our fit testing and our flow testing, based on what the actual costs were this year. Okay. 40. Let's go. Dues, there's a big one. The mutual aid pact that we belong to, Seacoast Chiefs, has announced an increase for next year's dues to $1,000 from $420. That's the big increase that we're seeing in the dues line. That dues covers the other things like the IAFC dues and our annual NFPA dues. Okay. Software licensing, I'm showing a decrease because we did go with a Red Alert was the software program for our INFRS, our fire incident reporting system, over the previous years, and we were able to split that up as an annual cost instead of paying for 5 years up front. Okay, so that's where we're seeing the big decrease right there. We are adding another feature finally. Bob, are you still here? I am responding. How long's that been on it? Okay. We've added I am responding this year. It's a phone app that Bob could, right? Okay. Yeah, it works. Okay. It's a backup, it's an augment to what the paging system is. It's for all the people that like to use their phones. It gives maps and details of where the calls are. I resisted it for years because I didn't think we had time to be playing with our phones, but I'm a different generation now, so, okay? It's got benefit, it's got a lot of benefit to it, okay? All right. Vaccination testing, where are we there? I am responding, yeah. Okay, I show a $1,000 increase, because of physicals and immunizations for the next year. I'm gonna have to, every time we send a firefighter now for a physical when they start, it's, between $630 and $800, depending on what, for that initial physical, okay? And we implemented years ago, the immunization for all the call members, we like to keep that current, so, okay? I'm showing a $1,000 increase in uniforms. Like everything else, the uniform allowance has increased this year due to inflation. It's up to $450 per full-time member per year, which covers their uniforms, okay? Okay.
Does that cover the increased number of full-time employees too?
Yes, it's times 6, yep. And there's also in there for some part-time employees, receive usually it's for pants, for EMS pants, that sort of stuff, because they get destroyed pretty regularly, so you get, okay. Office supplies, bear with me.
Gasoline,
Yep, oh, where did we pass? No, office supplies, up above it,
it looks flat.
that's flat eye. Office equipment down $500 based on what our actual needs are. I was able to replace the office computers at a reasonable price last year. They were surplus from somewhere, they were donated, okay, so, okay. Supplies and equipment, I'm showing it the same. Gasoline and diesel, okay? I didn't get the memo on the 50%. I used a WAG of 1,700 gallons based on what my projected usage is gonna be this year. As of the end of September, I'm 1,414 gallons of diesel. I could easily see 1,700 by the end of the year. I used an average of $6 a gallon to come up with that number. My estimate last year, that $6,000 had a $1,500 float, which disappeared, so I just want, that went away, so I put a $4,000 increase in there. I'll change it to whatever the standard's gonna be, but that's my,
That's fine.
I can't predict the $6. $6 I think is probably gonna be real. It's already $6 down south. I just saw it last week, okay, so, all right. Vehicle maintenance, I got it flat. You'll see that big hiccup this year in actuals. We talked about it. You're sick of hearing about the forestry head gasket and the 6.0 Ford deal. And some other issues, that we covered there. We're not out of the woods yet. I still have some corrective maintenance this week on engine 2 and the forestry, minor compared to some of the other stuff, so. Okay. Equipment maintenance, I'm showing a $600 decrease. Just to give you an idea of what, that line covers the maintenance on all the AEDs, that we are responsible for. That's 18 AEDs in a community, 18 total, 12 in the community. Between the PD and the fire department, we have 6 on board our apparatus. So there's 12 AEDs around the community that we maintain, including the school. We take care of the batteries, the pads, everything else, and we do monthly. We verify them, they're in service monthly. It's worth it for us to take care of it. That way there's some level of assurance that the AED is in service, so.
So you reduce that by 600 just based on the actual of where you are this year?
Based on what the projected needs are for battery packs and pads that are, that expire next year, okay?
Okay.
This year here, I had increased it because I looked forward and saw that we had a number of battery packs,
Okay.
that expire. So I looked at what's, that's based on what has to be replaced this year.
Okay.
Okay? what was equipment maintenance? Hydrant maintenance. I'm showing an increase of 3,500, and that's gonna reflect, again, that's a wag on, what the contractor is gonna charge to install, replace a hydrant on Kennard Road. We purchased the hardware about 2 years ago, prior to COVID, and, it has not been installed yet. Originally, the plan was for the highway department to install it, but, don't have the capabilities to do it, so we're gonna have to contract it out, okay? So. Radio maintenance, I have $1,000 increase, and that's based on, again, I try to replace two radios a year. With inflation, that's been hard. You'll see I haven't expended all that line for this year, because I've been, all those buzzwords, I've been saving, I've been fencing that money for any unknown expenses this year because of inflation. But, that's what that is. Telephone, everything else. Hazmat, another surprise here is a $1,700 increase. We belong to, it's Seacoast Chiefs Start, Seacoast Technical Assistance team for hazmat. Next year, it's increasing to $2,765 a year, from $1,300. Our assessment in the previous years was $1,300. What it means is a phone call, we could tap the resources of many of the larger departments for any type of hazmat incident, especially with Route 4. Have we used it? We've used it once since I've been chief, and, maybe, it's a risk thing here, okay? If we didn't have them, then we would be calling someone like Clean Harbors, and we'd be probably stuck with that bill, chasing insurance companies, for whoever caused the spill. I'm concerned about motor vehicle accidents, major, like a truck accident on Route 4, and that's where, any kind of hazmat incident like that. So that's where the surprise came from in that line.
Hey, Chief, just for my information, like, the explanation says SCFO start, what's the F and the O stand for?
Seacoast Chiefs Fire Officers, okay, that's the name of the mutual aid,
Yep, got it,
pack that we belong to, Seacoast Chiefs.
got it.
Yep.
All right, so all told for about a 18% decrease compared to last year. Questions, comments?
Chief, just trying to wrap my head around the hydrant. You're saying we're gonna have a contract to do it because our highway department can't do it?
They don't have the equipment, I believe, to be able to do it, okay?
What kind of equipment is needed?
It would need, again, an excavator that,
Have one.
okay,
Okay.
okay, okay.
One observation here, we put the $300,000 warrant article in on line 201. So the reason there's a 17% drop is part of that 300,000 was in health insurance and some of those that will show up in personnel administration rather than in the fire budget, but we put it all here in one place to show what it was and keep it self-contained.
Got it. All right, anything else?
Ambulance?
Ambulance, right.
Although,
That would be a separate sheet.
It's a
Yep, right
separate
here.
one, yep. Got it.
again, this is money that we put in a warrant article requesting permission to withdraw the amount from the ambulance fund, okay? Before we get to the questions, ambulance fund as of a week or so ago, has $376,000 in it. Of that 376, while I fumble for the right paper,
Are you looking for one of these?
no, it's my cheat sheet for how much of that is committed for the new ambulance, which we're number 13 for delivery now.
Is that better, or?
It was 14 last time I asked. But he gave me the number 13 on Halloween, so I asked, is that a trick or a treat? Okay, because
At least we're moving up in the line.
we're moving. Okay,
How many do they produce a year? 3, 4?
no, they're delivering other makes pretty regularly, and that was already, yeah. But I've been watching the company, not the dealers, Facebook propaganda, and that's in line with, the deliveries for the last 2 months or so. I watched and seen how many of the model that they only delivered one in the last couple of months. They're blaming it on, the manufacturer shortage for that model. They have delivered other models, because that was my question, how can you keep your doors open? You're only delivering one every 2 months, Yeah. We're real busy. Okay, of that 376, I'm showing roughly, 225 now, 103 is committed.
Are we looking at the right thing?
No, it's not on there, I'm just giving you a little backstory
Oh.
here. These ambulance,
Okay.
this budget is key to the ambulance fund. I wanted
Okay.
to preempt any questions on how much is the ambulance fund and the health of the ambulance fund. There's 376,000 in that fund, 225 roughly is earmarked for the new ambulance when it's delivered, up from 217, because it's a 23 model. Okay, that's just, there's approximately 150K left in there as of right now, so, I mean, that's not committed out of there, okay? So, any ambulance lines there, contract support, proposed the same, okay. I'm showing billing services for, an increase from, where are we here, from 8,500 to 9,000. The billing company gets paid on a percentage of what they collect, what we collect. Okay, and I'm looking at where our trend is with the collections, and also that's going to 9%, they take 9%, okay? Up from 8.5% next year, okay? I show an increase in ALS services, let's see, yes, because, this is what we pay, for medic services out of primarily Exeter Hospital, but it could be McGregor or whoever we use at the time, and that's based on where we're at this year, and I'm projecting. Med supplies, I think we're okay, I'm gonna keep it the same. Training, that's a placeholder, one year we paid for training out of here. Fuel, again, I'm basing it on my, ambulance as of the end of September, I used about 1,200 gallons of fuel. So again, I'm extrapolating for the rest of the year. That might be a little bit on the healthy side there, 1,700 times the 6. That's where I'm using for numbers there. Maintenance, ambulance maintenance, I'm keeping it the same. Telephone, okay, the same, and that's an overpayments line. So, I would be submitting a warrant article this year to withdraw $40,000 from that fund. Just as a point, anything that's not used goes back into the fund, so it's not like we lose it or it goes to the general fund. It goes back into the ambulance fund, so.
In essence, it never comes out.
Yes. But I gotta have enough there to cover it, because I don't wanna run out of Band-Aids in September, that sort of stuff. So that's that part, okay? Questions?
Anyone? All good?
Think so.
All right. Thank you, chief.
Thank you very much for your time.
you, Chief.
Sorry it took so long.
That is-
I like to explain things if I,
Nope, the more the better.
thank you.
Have a good night.
Very welcome, you too. I'm telling you, I gotta return you.
Yeah, okay.
DPW.
There we go.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hey, Sean.
258.
Hello, all. Get right at it. Hi, Steve.
All right.
Go right from the top, with the increases that are shown here. We'll go with the salary line first, which represents 5 employees, 4 hourly and 1 salary. Overtime increase reflects, the increase also reflects, let me back up, is wage increases with COLA and merit increases and pay adjustments across the board that happened this year. And then the overtime line will reflect those hourly increases.
Say that again, please.
The overtime line, the increase reflects the increase in the hourly rates.
So the hourly rate increase isn't shown in
It is
258?
on the first line on the highway salaries. And then the overtime had to go up as well because the
Okay. Oh,
overtime.
yeah, okay, got it, yeah, yeah. At this, the rate, yeah.
Part-time salary, that's staying the same. Hired snowplow equipment, that's a big increase, and that is based on the actual number from last year and an increase this year with the contractors, most in part with the cost of fuel.
Okay. Nope, never mind, go ahead.
So we had this, we went down in the hired equipment line by $5,000 based on how we're seeing the services go that way, so there was a reduction there. Highway sign line, that came down 12.5% based on the actual numbers that we were using for this current year.
Yeah, the supply line, you had the power washer. You skipped that.
Oh, I saw,
Hey, can we just back up for 1 second too? So 264, hired equipment, construction, that went down.
yeah.
What drove that?
No, the highway, hired equipment, yes, went down.
Okay, and what's driving that going down?
The actual numbers that's going out for hired services,
Okay, so based on.
based on what the actual,
Based on actual bids?
yeah.
Okay.
And to John's, right, I got going along too fast there, I skipped that one on the highway supply line, that's a 64% increase, that reflects an $8,000 pressure washer replacement.
What are you buying for $8,000 for a pressure washer?
A hot seat pressure washer,
Is it an enclosed unit or something, or?
no, it's just it's a bigger unit to power an undercarriage pressure washer that we have now, that we have to take 2 heads out of to get it to run right, because the current pressure washer we have isn't powerful enough anymore to run that device.
You looked around more than just $8,000? I find it hard to believe that power wash is $8,000.
That's what we priced out. I have the backup from Hotsy that we got that. It's replacing the exact, not the exact thing, it's an upgraded model, but it's the same
But if you go
model.
down to Chapel, they have commercial grade washers for a fraction of that price.
I surely will look into that, but that's the number that we had got to replace what we have.
Just, $800 versus $8,000.
But does it have the volume and pressure we need? That's what you'll have to check.
These new ones have a lot of volume.
Those are things I'll have to look into. I know that the one that I'm asking for in the budget that was quoted meets the demands of what we need.
Yeah, so, yeah, the volume and pressure, that combination.
Yeah. Sand, gravel, stone, 18% increase on that, based on what the actual number is that we're using. Increases at the pit with the supplier, based on fuel generating a lot of that stuff, because it's a processed material. Salt is up 22%. We took another increase, though it was relatively small compared to last year. It was still $3.52, I believe, bringing it up to $72.07 a ton.
Sean, can we just back up one?
Yep,
When it comes to the sand, gravel, and stone,
yep.
so I see an increase here, but seems like quite a bit considering we're bartering for services for sand. Shouldn't that offset that more?
We're not with the processed crushed gravel, and yes, you might see some of that coming up this year because we've had some materials made. What we had made in the barter of the sand was the winter sand.
Okay.
We're not having processed materials such as 3044, which is 1.5 inch crushed gravel, or 3/4 crush, or things of that nature.
Okay, all right. I just want to show there's a clear understanding with that. Thank you.
Yep. So salt's gone up again, based on what we use annually. It's about 1,600 tons we use annually. I plug in the number 1,700, just so that the vendor asks for a number which we committed to, or 40% of that number we have to purchase. So we do that already. The education line is up, that's employee training, now that we're out of the pandemic, and we have new employees. Training is becoming more popular, and it's being encouraged a lot more, with a lot more licensing, things of that nature, such as the CCM program, the culvert maintainer. Uniforms will stay the same. Telephone.
Hey, Sean, how come, why does fuel not show an increase?
The fuel didn't increase because it's showing that what the actuals are, that we're still under.
Okay, so even with increased costs, you're.
So right
you're-
now, at this time, on the end of September, we had only expended $38,000 with 3 months left. And we have a $60,000 line item.
Okay, we're seeing everybody else increase
I didn't,
estimates there, but just
I
as long as
looked
you're
at it
comfortable.
several times. I asked Betsy and everything if this was
Okay.
right, and she said, yeah, so I didn't go up. I mean, I'm more than happy to throw another.
No, not asking for that.
Do you think the increases are being picked up on the contractor side, maybe? Since they're doing more work?
No, it's
More
being
plowing
picked up
for-
is because, you know, it's the winter time is generating the fuel consumption more so than in the summertime and stuff. When the trucks are running, all the 10-wheelers are running, and they average 4.5 to 5 gallons a mile. And so
I think the other way
that's
around, miles a
consumed.
gallon.
Yeah. So in the summertime, we're doing culvert stuff, and it was only 3 of us, so we got an excavator going and 2 dump trucks. So the amount of vehicles running in the fuel consumption is less.
So you have half your equipment sit in the summer. That's why the fuel cost isn't up.
Yeah, based on
okay.
staffing levels and, yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, I think this is one of the lines, typically, when you get to the deliberative session, you'll have a much better handle on what the year end was and what January and February were for, well, January anyway. So if you've had a really bad winter, that's when you have to go back and revisit these.
That's fair, yep, that's fair.
Telephone, there's an increase there. That reflects Wi-Fi that was installed at the highway garage now.
You didn't have them before?
No. The next line, engineering and consultant, that's a typo on my part. That should have been 20,000, not 2,000.
It was corrected in what they have.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
So that's status quo. And that may, if we continue to run into some of these problems that we have just run into with failed culverts and stuff, that could go up a little bit more as well throughout the years.
Yep, okay.
That concludes the highway side.
But you've got the road maintenance on the next page,
Oh,
300,000.
the 300,000 is
Level.
that's the annual number that we plug
Yeah.
in for the 300, for the road maintenance, which is projects and paving we've been putting it at.
Yep.
Do you have a list of what you're gonna be doing next year, or is that
For
still in the
paving,
works?
right out of the gate, Oak Ridge and Flutter will be, have the top coat put on them. And then we go to the pavement management report, we'll use that as a helpful tool, but it's been to the point now with certain roads we're watching through the winter time. Deerfield Road is becoming problematic. we got some issues going on Cooper Hill, but I gotta play that accordingly because I have a big culvert replacement that needs to happen out there. Smoke Street is deteriorating in sections as well, so.
Okay,
and that-
are you in favor, or do you feel that, you know, what this is intended for, you know, shim and oil, sand and all that, put it on there to help extend the life of it? Are you in favor of doing that, or?
Putting
You know,
oil and shit in.
oil down, sand, you know, something to binds it all together, to you know, to prolong the life of the, road.
I haven't, the oil
Are you,
treatment.
are you aware of that practice, or?
Well, it used to happen a long time ago. I'm not aware that it's still going on. I know that they're doing the different applications with some chip seal and stuff
Okay.
of that nature.
Okay. I just didn't know if that was a viable option for our town to use to try to preserve these roads a little longer or not.
It very may well be, but it also is going to depend on where the pavement is now,
Okay.
if that's gonna work, and whether we just need to grind it up. And what a lot of times too is that we have to look at what's underneath that pavement that's making it fail. And seeing if we have a good sub base there, if we have a consistent processed material underneath of it, things of that nature.
Okay, thank you.
I got one thing, just to, the roadside mowing and knotweed control. Mm-hmm. $30,000.
Yep. We haven't got any bills in yet.
What is your mowing consisting of?
Roadside throughout the town,
Just roadside?
correct.
So,
Yeah.
highway department's not responsible for any of the fields or the cemeteries or anything, you're strictly just roadside?
And knotweed control, there's another part of that.
Yeah, I'm encompassing that too.
Yes.
Okay, all right, yeah.
The mowing
Can't
of
we
the
just have people
fields
to
is
take care of
fine.
their own front of their house?
Pardon me?
Cut the whole line at them?
Does that include 152?
No,
So the state's responsible for
yes,
getting rid of the knotweed and stuff?
yes.
No, I know. And when they paved it a couple of years ago, and they scraped knotweed all up and down the whole length of 152, and that's why it's so bad. And then, what was it, Conservation gets hate mail from the state that we haven't done enough to control the knotweed. Really?
We've done, the last 2 years, we've been on a program of spraying the knotweed, and we have a good grip on it now.
Okay.
All right, now moving on to the recycling center. Salary line, that reflects 4 employees. Increase reflects, there was wage adjustments made up there this year and COLA increases. The landfill mowing stays the same. Solid waste testing, that went down this year. That is, testing for the PFAS and stuff, and that, I got that number from, CMA, who does the testing for us.
So again, it's just a better number, not that the requirement or number of times or anything has changed, just the actual estimate.
Yes, the actual estimate for the current year coming up. Okay. Collection fees are increasing. I've gotten some in. Waste Management has some increases. Casella, I'm still waiting on their numbers. A lot of the stuff on the increases usually don't show up until the end of the year because they're going into effect. I've been, probing some of these companies and gotten some of the answers, but the way the numbers are generating, we are going towards that $216,000 line. So if you look at the actual last year, we were at 214,000. So,
Yeah, I mean, I think when we get the final numbers in, there's 2 or 3 lines on here we may have to revisit in January.
Okay.
okay, most everything else through here, I wanna make, one note, because this will lead into, a CIP request that I have, and that's on the equipment maintenance line. That's at 0 right now, but if you look at what the actual number was,
is 16,000. That Bobcat needs to be replaced. It's just turned into a maintenance nightmare with electronic problems, wiring problems. The boom telescope has many issues in it. It's just not the right piece of equipment to do what it's doing at the transfer station. So, I put the proposed number at 3,500 because that's where it's been. But if anything else arises with that machine, it could cost up to 5 times more.
So you put that in the CIP though?
I
The
put,
full cost of
I
that?
put a piece of equipment in there to replace it.
Got it.
And that may get discussed November 14th.
CIP?
No,
Oh,
the-
I see, yeah.
that backhoe.
The ARPA
Yeah,
discussion.
the ARPA's, yep.
The what?
The backhoe may be discussed under the ARPA. I'm making a recommendation that that's where you pick that from.
Okay.
And then the only other increase is on the telephone and the internet Wi-Fi cost up there, and that's up to, it's 2,000. That's to do with the security cameras too, I believe, that we have installed up there.
Where is the security cameras?
The telephone line.
Okay.
And that's about it. Any questions?
The question I have is not related to your budget, so I'll ask another time. It's not related to your budget, so.
All right, all good?
I'm good.
Thank you, Sean. All right, next up is election prep, but I need a 45-second break. No, wait till I come back, sure, thank you.
I don't know how you saw me.
Yes, yep, good to go. Good. On the 11th day, 11th hour, so.
Which one do you want to
Well, hold it, Tyler, we'll have that discussion.
Good, good luck.
That's what I have an issue with, so.
We all do. John, you're looking more and more like Santa Claus.
Trying.
You need to get a picture of the parade.
I've been looking just fine for the parade.
Hey, John. Hello, John.
Oh, yes.
Easy question. I had no, they mentioned something about somebody's impact, giving money back. I had no idea what that was.
When a developer builds in town, they have to make a contribution called an impact fee
Okay.
towards the school, the fire department, and recreation.
Anyone built a building, you mean?
Anyone who does a, is
So,
it subdivision?
I can explain this really well.
One
since I-
second, John.
I'm the one who put this, right. Impact fee, if you build a new house in Nottingham on a vacant piece of land, you have to pay an income fee. Doesn't matter if it's on a development or like, just on your own piece of property, you buy your own single piece of property and you build a house, you gotta pay the impact fee. The impact fee is designed by the planning board to be spread over certain places in the town. Police, fire, school. Now, you can only use that fee if you're doing an improvement. Like, we were using that fee as part of paying off the
Oh, yeah, we got that.
new building we put up. If we were building a new police station, we'd use those fees to pay.
So who do we return it to?
We return it back to the homeowner.
Jay just left,
If I'm a home, I'm
all right, I just started walking out the door.
Whatever.
Only if you pay, if you're,
Jay
so,
wants, I can
you were,
find out.
come here. If you were in the, like, I'm,
you just go to the house.
like, for me,
Wait,
in 6 years, if we don't use any of the $5,000-6,000, whatever I had to pay for the impact fee, I get the money back. All right? Now, it doesn't mean if Joe Smith, the builder, built 20 houses, okay, and he paid impact fee for every single one of those, every resident that lives in one of those houses will get some money back.
Okay.
It must have been in the general one.
Yeah.
Because I looked at, when I went back to my seat, I was like, okay, I know, I
No.
did not see this.
Because
Okay,
you
let's-
did it before.
let's
I'll
move
ask
on.
for it, put it in
Where's
for
Ben?
selectmen. Good point.
Awesome,
Where's
thank you.
Ben?
Yep.
All right, we're gonna move on to the election prep. We will give an opportunity, once we get through this public, as we get to the end of the public, part of the meeting, I will give you an opportunity to make comment, but we're gonna move on to election prep right now. Okay? Election prep. Election is coming up, November 8th, at the school. There is, so, we've always had the discussion over the years about which elections do select board people have to be at and which don't they, right? And this one is clearly one that, when you read the RSA, when it says, general election of a governor, is one of the ones that we are required to be at. So we are required to be at that one. So,
How does that work when one of the,
well, obviously,
okay. Yeah, I'll help out in any way I can.
yeah, and that's one thing,
I
like,
took the whole day off, so I'll be there from,
yeah, me too.
Yeah, me too.
Me too. And Tyler said he'll be there as well. The one thing, so, I mean, Dawn sent out the schedule, but we'll all be there, so we can figure that out. I might have to sneak out and make a phone call or two, but I can do it from up there. The one thing that Dawn had sent out, and I was trying to find it and I can't find it right now, was about setting up the outside in the morning, like the cones and stuff for the election area,
yeah, so.
and the chains and that kind of stuff.
Also
So,
have access to show up early and do that.
okay, I was gonna ask if you could do that.
Yeah,
And
I
I'll,
got access to the building.
well, they're there that early.
Okay.
Yeah.
She'll be there at 6 a.m.
She'll be there at 6, so I'll just let her know that you'll do that. The highway guys will be setting up on, John, you'll be setting up on Monday.
Monday afternoon, yes.
Is there anything that you need from us that was one of those things that was automatic that Chris just took care of that you might need us for?
I don't know until I get up there because the first time doing it without Chris, so don't have the answer.
Okay,
As far as doing our part and getting everything up there and setting up, we have go phones.
and you'll start doing it at,
We do it, 2:45 in the afternoon, it's in, when school releases, and then the material has to be put on the gym floor so it doesn't get scratched.
okay,
So as soon as that's down, which it doesn't take long at all, we usually set it up by 3 o'clock,
and then you're usually done by,
4:30.
oh, okay. All right, good.
And there's a lot of support that went on, I mean, the rec girls help, and there's, directors up there, she has help.
Okay,
Go right along.
okay. So if there's anything specific that you think of that you need from us that day, but then we'll do the tear down later on like we always do and leave the stuff in the back for you like we always do as well. Yeah, okay. Kelly, I assume is, like, I know Chris used to have a list of all of the supplies that he had to pull together.
Yeah, I think she's all set on that.
She's all set on that?
I'll double check, but I think she is.
Okay. Okay. And then if she has that ready to send up with Sean, that's great, otherwise one of us can just come by and grab it.
Yeah, I'll check with her, but she's good about that.
Okay.
At what point does the voting machine go? Does that have to wait until the morning of voting day to go? Yes?
It does,
It's secured, has to be under lock.
Okay,
yep.
all right. Does it need a ride? Does one of us need to come and pick it up, or?
That's taken care of.
Okay, okay.
The bigger box, I don't know, the part that goes on with ballots, okay, that is taken care of
Yeah.
through the town clerk.
Okay.
But the base can go earlier, right?
I'm not sure if the base can or not, I know that when
I know the top can.
the whole thing was there the night before. when I
Okay.
worked for-
Doesn't matter.
Okay.
All right,
She
good?
had one more thing she wanted to mention, that she didn't mention.
What?
On her, was
Oh.
moving where you're holding your signs.
Yeah, that made sense.
I think it should stay the way it was. That's just my opinion. Just thought I'd bring it up.
So I think her proposal was that it goes in between
The two
the
entries.
two entrances, right?
Right, well, usually it's one entry was the school and the second one is usually the primary exit. You know, that's how everybody, it is an access in, but only if you're handicapped. If you're not handicapped, you gotta be using the other entrance. So I just felt it was better when people come in, you keep all the people, when you're coming in, your signs are all here, you're going that exit. And when people leave, they're just by themselves and off their day they go. And then you get more exposure for the people holding the signs when they're all by that one exit. That was just why I thought we should just leave it the way we've always had it. There's always been plenty of room. We've always everybody fit in, every different party, always mingled and we made it. I haven't seen a fight yet, hopefully we'll never see one. So I think I would leave it that way there, I would not change it. Cause I think you just get lost if you go too far over.
Is that a moderator decision or an us decision?
Well, she brought it to our attention by putting it in the notes, she brought it there, so I'm just saying.
I think
why
that's
I
a
brought it.
moderator. That's a moderator
Moderator.
decision.
Fine. You can express your
I'll
opinion.
voice my opinion to her, no problem.
Okay. Really? You know, you're so shy.
Yeah, no worries.
Be there for that one.
Yeah, okay,
Well,
cool.
First do it in an email.
All right, excellent. Okay, couple minutes. People have comments they want to make. Now is the time. Not going to spend a lot of time on it because we still have about another 45 minutes of non-public to do.
I just have actually a quick question. The dump. So, out of everything that we, that, you know, citizens bring to the dump, that goes into different bins, so paper, plastic, whatnot, what is actually sold and recycled? What is actually recycled out of that stuff?
Do you want to answer that, Sean?
Everything's recycled, but it's at different costs. So what, you wanna know what monies we're getting?
No. Somebody had said, well, we don't get money for, you know, plastic anymore, and I wondered if that was the case or not.
No, we get money for plastic, we get money for cardboard, we get different rates for number one plastic, and then the colors mix. So we get that, we get.
Cans.
Aluminum cans, and we get money for steel cans, and we get money for scrap.
Okay, so everything basically that's being divided, we're reaping some benefit out of it, whether or not it's,
Whether or not
Break.
it's cost-worthy,
But we
but,
pay for tires and we pay for refrigerators and we
Yeah,
pay for air
right.
conditioners,
Electronics will pay for.
electronics.
and,
We pay for those when we dump them, though.
No, but we have to budget for it. It goes as a revenue and then an expenditure.
It should offset.
It does.
It does.
but-
It is.
But
It
in the
does.
budget, you have to gross
You have to show it,
appropriate.
yeah.
Have to show it all.
yeah, we have to show both. And do we have any idea whether or not doing that, say, for instance, plastic doesn't pay that much, I'm just using an example. Say plastic doesn't pay that much, and all the effort that has to go into basically segregating this plastic and doing whatever you people do in the recycling world with plastic, have we looked at whether or not it's cost effective for us to recycle some of the things we recycle based on the cost of staffing, the cost of that kind of thing? I'm just, pardon me?
Truck is a huge thing.
Trucking.
yeah.
That's where we lose the profit, is we pay for the guy to come pick up the stuff and bring it away. The trucking costs and tipping costs are is our biggest, largest expense.
Okay, which I guess is what I was wondering.
Right, that's where it really.
Are we in
when you
a
think we're making-
losing
we're
situation? Yeah.
We're losing.
And recycled materials are commodity too, so the price
Right.
fluctuates with the
Right.
markets.
But
I
the
understand
thing
that.
to
But diesel
remember,
stays at $6.
but the thing to also remember is by diverting it from the MSW, the big compactor,
Mm-hmm.
you're saving what that cost, that per ton, what is it per ton?
Right, I mean, we're paying for it one way or another.
It's,
Right.
well, like, we get rid of the bulky waste, it's $119.50 to dispose of that, that doesn't include the trucking cost to get it there.
But you truck both of them, but diverting it there's a saving in diversion, but the cost, especially for plastic, trucking is the big one, because you're not getting that much weight out of the stream.
Okay, I just
Okay,
wanted,
thank you. Anyone else?
I'm Doug Bateson on Lamprey Drive. I see you guys are really short on time. I wrote up a presentation for you. You can read it at home, and I'll just go over the major points.
Thank you. Thank you.
Are you putting in a motel?
Pardon?
Are you putting in a motel? I see Bates Motel here.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's a Halloween themed presentation.
Gotcha,
You know, today's
gotcha,
Halloween.
all right.
I was out with the trick-or-treaters earlier this evening. Anyway, at your last meeting, there was an alarming thing said a couple of times by our new interim town administrator that he thought several $100,000 needed to be spent to bring up the camp roads to town standards. Now, if you recall, we got rid of the town standards with warrant Article 20 last year. But if you look at the town's website, those standards are still on the website. Shouldn't those be gone? That's what warrant Article 20 did. The other thing that concerned me at that time, about a week before that, was the roads I live on got substantially widened. And I think the people who voted in warrant Article 19 wanted these roads being left as is. There are a lot of benefits to keeping these roads as is because they're full of traffic calming features. And in your presentation here, you'll see lots of pictures of engineered traffic calming features and examples of similar features on our roads. So I'm here to make a pitch. Let's not change these. We need to keep them safer for our pedestrians. Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Bates.
Can I just make one comment? I wasn't saying we had to bring them all up to that road standard. I said we're going to be spending hundreds of thousands of dollars maintaining them. This year alone, we've spent $170,000 on 2 of those roads.
So let's not get into a debate.
Yep, nope,
Your-
that's just a statement.
Your point's well taken, thank you. Yep. Anyone else? Going once, going twice, going 3? All right. I'll take a motion.
What letter?
A.
A.
I'll make a motion to enter non-public session per RSA
91A3.
91-A:3, section 2A.
Second.
Roll call.
I, Tony Dumas.
Donna Danus.
Hi, John Moran.
Hi, Ben Bartlett.
Okay, we are now going to go into non-public. I need to ask you all to leave,
Except Sean.
except for Sean.
Thank you, Nottingham.
We will be coming out of non-public and adjourning the meeting. Thank you for coming.